Sylvain?
Sylvain, actually. Thanks. So it's nice being here. I'm Sylvain. I'm the co-founder of BotPress. BotPress is a bot building framework. And like Alex said, there's a lot of crappy bots out there. So I take the blame on me because we are actually building the bots that allow you to build crappy bots. And so today I'll share some key insights on what we learned by building BotPress. So first off, who here has ever used ChatFuel or ManyChat or another online bot platform? All right. And how many of you have written a bot from scratch? Okay. Okay, well, my goal today is to convince you that there's another way, which is like in the middle, and this way is called BotPress. BotPress has been released in January this year, so we're really the newest, we're the newest kid in the game. Yet we've seen some big traction. Right now we have 666. That's just for your memory. I heard that if you put all the same numbers, it's going to get in your head and you're going to think that BotPress is really popular. Anyway, it's 666. This number is the number of bots that's been created. We don't know how many people use it. But, there's a lot of bots that's been created, but this is mainly due because agencies have decided to take BotPress as their go-to tool for creating bots inside, like really as their go-to tool to build bots for enterprise. And as a result, we have many large enterprise and some Fortune 500 companies using BotPress in production. BotPress is open source, so it's on GitHub. You can go to BotPress/BotPress on GitHub. We have like you can see, we have some pretty good traction in the open source project. And what BotPress is a mix between a framework and a platform. I like to say that we're like the WordPress of chatbots. Because in a way, we have this user interface that allows you to manage the bots, but we are totally designed for developers, which means that you can't create a bot visually. You need to create the bot using code, but once that's done, you can push this bot, and it has a visual interface for your users to manage the bot. And so, in a way, it's similar to ChatFuel, but in another way, you create it just like you would use Microsoft Bot Framework or BotKit. So there's a few components. This talks about modular design. So, as you know, a bot has many components. I'm going to speak about the first 3 there, because this is usually a 30 minutes presentation. I only have 15 minutes. So this slide makes me laugh because it reminds me of the chat platforms. When they, it's very attractive because they have all these switches that allows you to deploy in one click to all these different channels. So for example, on the Microsoft Bot Framework, you can code your bot once, and then you can deploy it to Skype, Skype for Businesses, Kik, Telegram, the web chat, and so on. And so I want to convince you. So my first insight is that do not turn that switch on, because if you do, that means that you're willing to compromise user experience for scaling your bot, which is something totally radical. So let's take an example of an appointment booking bot. On the left, this bot was designed to be for SMS, and it's been pushed to Messenger using this one switch. So as you can see, it is purely text-based, because the only kind of interaction that is like the common denominator, of SMS and Messenger is text, right? So you can't take text and transform it to a carousel. So you need to stick with text, which means that if you click on this switch, you're literally compromising the user experience, because clearly on the right, you have a much better user experience, because you can see you don't have all these 200 taps to pick a slot. Like literally on the left, you had this probably took like 2 minutes to get there and 200 taps, so there's a lot of friction. On the right, you can see on Facebook Messenger, you have, since this is a web UI, you have all the available slots, so you have more information, it's faster, and the user experience is much better. This is a small algorithm we use internally to decide whether we should use this feature, or if we should do it one way or the other. So we're basically, in green, we're trying to maximize this, and in red, we're trying to minimize it. So for example, the speed of the flow is very important. Before you introduce a human, I know introducing a human is good, but you're slowing down the flow, which irritates user. So it's not always a good option. So you need to always keep this in balance. So you're trying to maximize the output efficiency. There you see on this slide on the right, this is an output efficient because you display more information in less space. And so you want to minimize the number of loops you do and the effort to type the inputs. The second thing I want to talk about is natural language processing. As Alex said, NLP has a long way to go, I think, before it becomes really good. So there's actually, this is a good thing because these platforms exist because you don't want to go to the university, do a PhD in AI, and have to learn how it works and create your own platform. And these big companies, they want your data. So they say, well, we have the knowledge, we'll create the tool, we'll give you free NLP. You have the tool, we have your data, win-win, right? So this is good, but every time that I use one of these tools as a developer, I just feel like I'm taking one of these pins with a big lock on it. Because in reality, what you want as a developer, and most people creating bots right now are developers. So what you want for NLP, you want something that is being built for developers, which means you're probably, if you're a developer, you probably don't want to use a user interface. You want to use code, which these tools don't have. I don't know if you've tried to create a multilingual bot, but if you actually do try, good luck, because it's really hard. Because, for example, if we take API.ai, you have the concept of agent. And if you want to do it multilingual, you have to duplicate every agent, and you need to keep in sync all these different agents. And so if you have, for example, Cindy working for BotPress, and she wants to add French as a language, she has to take this agent, create a new agent, add all the same NLP intents, and making sure that if she does a modification inside the French agent, you need to reflect this change to the English agent. On top of this, if the NLP is not source control, you have no way of knowing who modified, who's touching the actual data, and who's training the model, who's affecting what. And so it doesn't go through your natural coding pipeline, which is kind of bad. And also, lastly but not least, extensibility. So it's not all about how much data you have. People say, well, how much data, 1 million phrases, 10 million phrases. It doesn't work this way, because if you have a shitty model, it doesn't matter how many data you have, because your model still sucks. So you need to be able to extend or tweak the NLP engine, which Rasa does. So you need this way of extending or telling the engine, some sensitive information, and on how to understand your phrases better. And so this, I'm not telling you this is the right solution, and I'm just proposing something. And maybe that's a good idea, maybe it's a crap idea. But what if you had a way of defining, like a React-like syntax, something really built for developers, something that developers will like? And you see there, you have some tags. these tags are a way for you to extend the natural language processing engine, and by giving some programmatic hints to the engine, and so you can tweak how the model understands your code. This is being source controlled with your code. So when you push your bot, your model is getting trained and pushed at the same time. If you roll back your code, your NLP actually gets rolled back at the same time. So this would solve like the build for developers. It will solve the source control, the extensibility, and it will solve the multilingual as well. This is just funny thought. The only way to test NLP is to push to production right now. This is really bad. Every time you want to test something, you just, okay, I'm gonna push it to production and see how it turns out. And the last insight that we have is about content management. So a few weeks ago, one of a big agency that is a client of ours, they came to me and said, Sylvain, we need your help. We have this big sports team, and we're building a bot for them. But we have this trivia question thing inside the bot. And so I said, okay, so what's the problem? And they say, well, the client wants to be able to modify the trivia questions. So they want to add some questions and they want to modify them. And so I said, okay, well, and by the way, I love Chatfuel. So I said, well, you know, for this, you should use Chatfuel because it's much easier to create a bot and your client will be able to use it and modify the questions. And he said, no, that's the issue. Because in fact, we were using Chatfuel, but the problem is they find it too difficult to use. I say, what do you mean too difficult to use? Like Chatfuel is the world's easiest tool to use. There's nothing easier than Chatfuel. And he said, no, it's actually very easy to create a chatbot using Chatfuel, but it's very hard for them to edit the content. All they want is a form to add a trivia question. And so we had the click moment where we said, okay, yeah. So like the UI should be like this instead. So we built this feature inside BotPress, which allows you to create a form in 5 minutes for your end client. And so what it does actually, so here you can just type the question, the good answer, and the bad answers. And so that is exactly what their client needed. And so they didn't needed this really simple way of creating bots because they don't care about writing a bot. All they want is to manage the trivia questions. And so this led me to a new way of thinking about the bot building platform. And from now on, every decision that we take, there's really two categories. There's the building process and there's the managing process. Everything related to building the bot happens in the code because this is the developer's responsibility. And everything related to managing the bot is done via the UI. So BotPress really is like, there's two different kind of users and we're targeting two very different person. But it does the job for everybody. And so building the bot relates to NLP, the flow, and the integrations that you do. Managing, there's the content editing, which I've just talked about, the analytics, and the marketing. If we speak about marketing, these are all things that the marketing, like you could think, oh, marketing, that's quite easy to do, but it's actually very, very hard because when you look at these features, you see broadcasting, that might seem easy until I say at 8 a.m. on user's time zone. This complicates everything. The drip campaigns, you say day +1, day +2, day +3, say this, say that, etc. Segments, geo-wording, that's quite nice because if you always say hello, that's pleasant experience. But if you say howdy from people from Texas, this is a really nice experience. It's a nice little kick that you can add to your bots. And so we're developing these marketing modules inside BotPress. And finally, I hear people say, like, chatbots are gonna take your jobs. Yeah, probably for customer service. But good news is that there's lots of new jobs being created, like this emoji translator guy. Uh, it's awesome, no? But there's lots of new jobs being created, like interaction designers. They're gonna come up and say and replace the UI designers, right? Well, not replace, but they're gonna become extremely in demand because of these conversational experiences. And so we're not replacing everybody's job, we're just switching the roles. So a little bit of encouragement to everybody building bots and platforms. I would say like we've come a good way, but I think that we're only 1% done, and so keep up the good work. Thanks. Any question? Yep. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, yeah. So this one. Yeah, so these are different modules that we have inside BotPress. So analytics and marketing. So marketing is like all these, sorry, these are all different modules that we're building. And content editor is one of these modules that is being added to BotPress. And yeah, so that you need to add some verification like of the inputs. And so this is being built by the developer. This is not the responsibility of the person managing the bot. Does that answer your question? Yeah, yeah, correct. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So there's many steps. Like there's many. There's an API for developers, and at different stages you can say, well, I want to validate this input, or I want this field to look like this. And this is extendable in React, so you can create your own components, and you can put drag and drops and stuff like that. Um, this is, we're actually based on the JSON schema standard, and we're using React JSON schema, which allows you to create these forms in only 5 minutes or so. Okay. Yeah, yeah, that's a strategy. Yeah, yeah. Question? Cool. Yep. I'm sorry, I didn't get that. Okay. That's clear. So this is an open core. This is an open core business model. So we have this framework that is free open source for 99.999% of the people. And big enterprises come to us and like they say, we need extra feature, we need extra security, we need user management, we need roles and stuff like that. And so we have an enterprise version which is closed source that we sell to big enterprises. We have, I think, 2 minutes, so I can stand there or. Yeah, so we're moving very fast, and the content management is actually in beta. So if you're working off the master branch, it's not there. But if you look on GitHub, there's a branch called content in beta, and It's going to be released tomorrow, in fact. Yeah, so there's this is still there's broadcast and segmentation there. So there's a drip campaign and all these things are coming up because we're developing these modules for an enterprise client.